Good afternoon. So today we are going to discuss about the traditional assessment techniques in teaching literacy. This topic will be discussed by Axis Linguray, J. Lamor Gatdula, and Juliet Franco. Our agenda are: first, the definition of the traditional assessment. Second would be the strengths and weaknesses of the traditional assessment. Third is the advantages and disadvantages of it. And the last one is the assessment tools. Let's proceed now to the definition of the traditional assessment. So when we say traditional assessment, it is a test that taken with paper and pencil that are usually true or false, matching type, or multiple choice. These assessments are easy to grade but only test isolated application, facts, or memorized data at lower level thinking skills. Traditional assessment approaches are generally instructor-centered and that they measure performance against an empirical standard. Ito yung ginagamit ng mga teachers noon pa man. And whenever we hear the term traditional, we would think of something we're used to, something that exists for a long time. When something exists for a long time, people are used to it, right? And when it comes to assessments, traditional assessments have been in the classroom for the longest time. We can say that the teachers and even students are used to this traditional assessment. When I was a student, I would expect our exams to be in any form of traditional assessment. We would focus on how to get the right answer to pass our exams. Most students share the same sentiment, and getting good scores became the goal of most students. I cannot blame them if they have developed this kind of thinking. Their environment puts too much emphasis on getting good grades. I was thinking, so how important grades are? Should grades be used to measure one's capabilities and knowledge? Are we putting too much emphasis on grades? I agree that grades are important. At the end of every learning activity, there should still be results. And the results should still be measurable. It can help teachers gauge where the students are in terms of meeting their learning goals. However, because of the emphasis we put on grades, students tend to disregard the importance of achievement of learning outcomes. And having good grades doesn't equate to successful learning. You may have a good grades, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have fully achieved your learning outcomes. If we were to create balance between grades and learning, we should start with the assessments that we are giving to our students. If students' perception about assessments and evaluation will be different, their approach in grades and learning will be different as well. Students who put too much emphasis on grades will study very hard before the exam to get a good grades. On the other hand, students who see the importance of both grades and learning will study even without exams to ensure that they will achieve their learning outcomes. They will use the evaluation and feedback given to them as a guide when they create their learning strategies. At this point of my learning about traditional assessments, I've developed a better understanding of its uses. Some may say that authentic assessments are better than traditional assessments. Come to think of it, traditional assessments will not last this long if it's not useful. Like in the case of textbooks, in spite of the emergence of internet and multimedia, schools still use textbooks, right? And textbooks have features and uses which new materials cannot provide. Similarly, traditional assessments have methods and instruments that authentic assessments can't provide. It's not a matter of which assessment is better. It's a matter of using the right tool. Are you going to use high-heeled shoes for running? No, right? So let's not concentrate on knowing which is the better assessment. Instead, let's focus on identifying which tool is appropriate for our classroom. So next would be the strengths and weaknesses of this traditional assessment.
The strengths and weaknesses of traditional assessment.
Reliability and validity. Lahat po ng assessment ay kailangang maging reliable and valid, hindi lang dapat ang traditional assessment. Reliability po dahil dapat ang test ay mayroong consistency, dependability, at stability. Validity naman po dahil ang assessment ay dapat appropriate, useful, meaningful, at correct. Since ang traditional assessment po ay paper and pencil test, it is easy to administer. Compared po to other assessment, traditional assessment uses a checking key. So, madali po siyang ma-checkan compared to other assessments. Uses low-level thinking. Kung naaalala niyo po yung sa Bloom's Taxonomy, ang low-level order thinking skills ay remembering, applying, and understanding. Ang traditional assessment po kasi is encourages memorization of correct answers. Since ang purpose po ng traditional assessment ay to evaluate and rank students, ang magiging weaknesses po nito is individualist and competition. Unlike sa other assessment po na may cooperation, dito po tingin ng isa't isa sa kanila ay competitor. Kasi po, they aim for high ranking.
For better understanding of strengths and weaknesses of traditional assessment related in teaching literacy, J. Lamar Gatdula will present further the disadvantages and advantages of traditional assessment.
Now, let's proceed in the advantages and disadvantages of traditional assessment techniques in teaching literacy. Advantages. First, evaluates the learning and retaining capacity of a child. It analyzes how much of the provided material or syllabus has been acquired by the students. At syempre nakakatulong to sa mga mag-aaral at sa mga teachers to compare the performances of different students. Second, the teachers get a preview of a student's knowledge conveniently. Third, it is assess a student's learning through a set of questions curated as per the specified syllabus. Fourth, the student develop their retaining and understanding capabilities. So, syempre, malalaman din nila dito kung paano mag-recognize and reconstruct their intellect and build their own cognitive abilities. Fifth, this approach is overall more simple or straightforward and time-saving. So, syempre dito, yung mga teachers, kailangan din nila yung mga efficiently able to manage more children in a lesser amount of time. It is quiet, reliable, and fixed. And lastly, traditional assessments do not require extra tools and hence is very economical. A simple pen and paper can be used in the procedures. When it comes to the teaching literacy, itong advantages nito is traditional assessments methods are widely used because this is the common method is the standardized reading test which is given at the start, throughout the school year, and at the end of this year. So, standardized tests are highly effective in evaluating students' progress and growth. Ito ay nakakatulong sa mga teachers to determine what strategies work best for their students and which strategies needs to be discontinued. And itong advantages nito in traditional assessment in teaching literacy ay importante dahil it provides the students with opportunities to show their understanding of certain concepts. So the students can also get feedback on what they need to work on in order to improve their skills. Furthermore, traditional assessment allows students to be self-regulated in their learning. These opportunities allow students to become more involved in their own learning. Dito naman sa disadvantages, it limits a student's potential and those allow out-of-the-box thinking. These methods kasi cannot be deemed to be a very creative one. And it just provides a surface preview of a student's capabilities as per the norms set by the regular curriculum. So not everybody individual may be suited to a particular format, and traditional assessments are very restrictive because the students get limited options and students do not develop extensive comprehensive skills. Kaya ang nangyayari, it is more theory-based approach which may sometimes not promote a healthy learning and inclusive atmospheres. Kaya kadalasan nangyayari sa mga estudyante na feel nila yung pressured and competence can be cause of anxiety. This method is not very diversified and hence it fails in catering to the unique needs of every individual. Kaya pagdating sa teaching literacy, it is a very essential for teachers to be aware of the disadvantages of traditional assessment. Why? Because they will be in a position to make the necessary adjustments in their teaching and in their assessment methods in order to make them more effective and also to increase the level of student learning in their classroom.
Okay, now let's proceed to the last discussion, which is the traditional assessment tools. So what are those? First is the true or false test. True or false items require students to make a decision and find out which of two potential responses is true. Since they are easy to score, it is easy to administer true or false tests. Next would be the multiple choice test. Multiple choice tests are commonly utilized by teachers, schools, and assessment organizations. Depending on the level of cognitive effort, they become harder and more time-consuming to create. We also have the essays. Essays are effective assessment tools since the questions are flexible and assess the higher order learning skills. They are not very practical due to the fact that it is very difficult and time-consuming to score the essays. Subjectivity might be an issue in scoring, and creating a rubric might be helpful to grade the essays. Last one would be the short answer test. In short answer test, items are written either as a direct question, requiring the learner fill in a word or phrase, or as statements in which a space has been left blank or for a brief written answer. Let's have an example. The story about ang kuneho at ang pagong. So, paano ba natin to magagawa gamit ang true or false test? Example, I will be giving a statement and the student will be answer it using true or false. Okay, talo ng mabilis ang mabagal. Is it true or is it false? What is the answer? False, right? Bakit nga ba false ang sagot? Siyempre, hindi naman nasusukat ang kakayahan kung siya man ay mabilis dahil kung tuloy-tuloy ka at may paninindigan, makakaya mong matapos ang isang bagay gamit ang iyong kakayahan. So, using the multiple choice naman. Siya ang mapangliit at mayabang sa kwento. Is it A, pagong, B, kuneho, C, langgam, o D, wala sa nabanggit? What is the correct answer? Mapangliit at mayabang. Sino ba yung mapangliit at mayabang doon sa kwento? Of course, the answer would be the letter B, kuneho. Sa essay test naman, mula sa inyong nabasang ang pagong at ang kuneho, ano sa tingin nyo ang mahalagang aral na natutunan nyo rito at paano nyo ito maia-apply sa inyong sarili? ipaliwanag sa pamamagitan ng paggawa ng essay. And using the short answer test naman, hindi mahalaga kung ikaw ay mabagal, basta't tuloy-tuloy ay kaya mong mapagtagumpayan ang blank ng buhay. Ano sa tingin nyo ang tamang sagot? Yes, it would be karera. Hindi mahalaga kung ikaw ay mabagal, basta't tuloy-tuloy ay kaya mong mapagtagumpayan ang karera ng buhay. And that's it. Tulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, hindi sa paggamit ng tradisyonal o makabagong pagtataya dapat bumabase ang isang guro. It is on what tools the teacher will use to assess her students. Thank you for listening. If you have questions or clarifications, you can comment or message us on the chat box or on Messenger. God bless.